Alright guys, Total War Pharaoh. Now I've been a Total War fan for forever, even before it was called Total War. Believe it or not, it used to be a time where it was just the game, and then the Total War series, like Rome Total War, but now we have Total War Rome 2, whatever. But anyways, Total War Pharaoh. I don't really know who this game was made for. Was it made for Total War fans like myself of many years, or was it made to attract new people to the franchise? It seems not to fit either mold quite entirely. You can see by the player count compared to other Total War games that Total War Pharaoh is already dead on arrival, barely surpassing 5,000 concurrent players at its peak on release. This compared to older titles that are still getting 10,000 plus daily. Let's get into why Total War Pharaoh has not succeeded.
I really don't get this intro. This is kind of weird. It had like nothing to do with anything. Also, I feel like that's the intro for every faction. I remember at a time where every faction had their own intro, but that one I think is just for every faction. And I don't understand like the grape thing, like going like to the statue, like I don't. He almost died trying to eat a grape. Like, that's awesome.
The size of the game and the price. Total War Pharaoh's price would suggest that it is in fact a full title release Total War game, a mainline game for Total War series, except it does not meet the content requirements for a mainline Total War release, and we as fans are stuck paying for the full release price. Total War should have been a cheaper game, like Thrones of Britannia or Troy, which were $40 and $50 respectively.
It makes no sense to me why the Greeks are in the game. Like, this whole area, even the western side of Anatolia, like, it's just not in the game? Or like more like Mesopotamia? Like, what is going on here? Did they forget about the Greeks, the Mycenaeans? Probably not.
These were not mainline entries into the Total War games. They were smaller sagas, and the price reflected that. They were not full price $60 games. Pharaoh, by all accounts, is little improvement over Troy, which shares a similar time period. Many have dubbed this game, in fact, Troy 1.5. Pharaoh feels like it has a similar amount of content as these smaller sagas games, and yet is still full price.
I feel like once you deal with the actual Bronze Age collapse and the sea people are kind of gone, like, you kind of just snowball in power projection and like I mean, look at all my resources. Like, I have way more resources than I'll basically ever need. I'm unbelievably powerful. Nobody can rival me in any way. There's basically no challenge left. The only challenge is like, how quickly can I take over the rest of the world? Like, and I don't even know why I need to take over the, like, what's the point? Like, I already have all the resources I need. Like, I kind of, beyond just kind of like victory conditions and objectives, like, I don't like see any point going on. I've lost my will to live.
Pharaoh takes place in the Bronze Age collapse, right before the Bronze Age collapse. And the Greeks, or the Mycenaeans, are somehow not in the game, which are a major player in this time period. I seriously doubt they forgot about the Mycenaeans, as they are a major faction, and are instead have removed this faction to then add it as DLC, paid DLC, in the future. Furthermore, the actual campaign map for Pharaoh feels extremely small. It only encompasses Egypt, Asia Minor, and parts of the Levant. There are whole regions like Greece I mentioned, and Persia that are completely missing from the games. There are major factions not in this game at launch, and we could just assume that, again, they didn't forget about these factions. They will just be released later as DLC, as paid DLC. This is a disappointing turn for Sega. They've been known for this, obviously, but it's happening more and more. The blood and gore not being in the game is probably the worst offender. If you don't know, I think with Rome 2 is the first instance that happened, but if you want blood in the game, if you want gore in the game on the actual battle map when your soldiers are fighting, if you want to see blood, you gotta pay for it.
Wait, there are no bodies on the ground? There are no bodies on the ground? Why are there no bodies on the ground? Wait a minute. The bodies disappear? What? That makes no sense. Why do bodies disappear?
But what about the actual game? Okay, Total War has in the past few installments simplified the game mechanics in an effort to make the game more accessible to new players. A dumbing down of strategy in my opinion. But I am happy to report in Pharaoh that they have added many new mechanics into the game that not only make strategy more complex, but also creates more opportunity for replayability.
Again, this game just has a lot of different mechanics that are all going on at the same time that it's kind of difficult to kind of play and learn them as you go, because it requires a lot of long distance thinking, long distance planning. It's a learning process. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but like I will say for a Total War game, it's become, you know, their games have been streamlined in the past a lot to the point where you can play them kind of like brain dead. So I'm actually going to say that I like that it's complicated. I like that there's a learning curve.
Politics and intrigue is back and better than ever with the court system. You have the different deities you can worship, depending on which sections of the map you control. You have the power of the crown, which allows you to contend for the crown of either the Egyptians or the Hittites. So you can contend to be the pharaoh. You can choose which great legacies you want to invoke, a great conqueror, a great statesman, or diplomat. And these unlock different abilities depending on who you choose.
I have no idea what's happening. What is this? That is a cool, like there's so many different mechanics going on in the game at the same time.
And of course, the Bronze Age collapse system. This is probably the biggest draw for me personally. This mechanic is really great. It encourages you to expand quickly until the sea people arrive. And then it becomes a constant fight for survival.
A lot of civilization collapses are like this. It's not like one thing happened. It's not like the sea people just arrived and everyone like folded. It was a bunch of bad things happened and then the sea people came and like wiped everyone out when they were already weakened.
Really quick background here. We don't actually know how the Bronze Age collapse really happened. We knew it was a combination of things. Basically, natural disasters, you have civil unrest, and then the sea people. The mysterious sea people is probably the most mysterious thing we know. We know that they're people that came from the sea and that they attacked the Hittites and destroyed their kingdom. They attacked the Egyptians. The Egyptian kingdom did not fall completely, but was severely shrunk. And prosperity, global prosperity basically came to a halt. International trade basically came to a halt. And we know almost nothing about the sea people. So the way this mechanic works in the game is you have a global prosperity value. Okay, now the global prosperity value is a combination, it's an addition of all the cities in the world, okay? As the sea people invade, they will destroy cities. The sea people do not take cities, they only destroy cities. So the more cities they destroy, the less global prosperity. There's 3 stages in global prosperity. There's the normal prosperity, there's crisis as it gets lower, and then there's collapse as it gets to the lowest value, okay? And now as you go lower to crisis and collapse, you have less fertility, that's less food, less resources, and an increase in unhappiness in your population. So this kind of resembles what we think happened. You have the natural disasters, less food, you have civil unrest, and of course the sea people. So this makes things like managing cities and especially managing resources and happiness very crucial to the game. Speaking of resources, compared to other Total War games, Pharaoh has real resources for the first time. Instead of simply collecting taxes, you collect resources like food, stone, wood, and of course bronze. I like this change. It makes capturing certain settlements very important. Like if you need bronze, you need to capture a bronze city. That way you can start producing bronze for yourself.
So we've already completed that. Next, I want to kind of hit these guys over here. The problem is I want to hit this guy because he has bronze. Bronze is really important, and it's hard to find bronze places.
The campaign AI will also send trade offers to trade resources when you are low on certain resources. So for instance, if you're low on food, the AI will most likely send you a trade offer. It might not be a great trade offer, but they will offer you food to accommodate.
Single barter. I'll do that. Who are these guys? They're my... Oh, okay. They gave me food. That was actually very useful. Somehow, I'm low on food, and my ally offered me food in exchange for wood. That's actually astonishing. Most of the time, the AI would never be that smart or useful to do something like that. WAI.
I thought this was a really great addition. It made the other factions and the AI seem more human and more realistic. I will say that it can be overwhelming to expand, especially at the beginning of each campaign, which I know should be the hardest, but it can be very overwhelming to maintain resources and also your settlements. For example, Even when I had 2 full provinces and 7 settlements, I couldn't sustain a single army stack of 20 low-tier troops. It simply cost too much food and too much bronze to keep them all, making progress extremely slow at first.
I'm not even like doing stuff that I'm not even like, oh, I want to go here to take this land to like, I'm just declaring wars just so that my country, my economy doesn't fucking collapse. Like nothing is sustainable. It's weird. I don't know why. Like again, I don't have a large army. I have a stack of 15. That's it. I have 1 stack.
Maintaining the happiness in settlements is also extremely tedious, as with the changing of prosperity, which happens all the time, happiness can flux quite a lot. This combined with the workforce can be extremely tedious to deal with. Workforce is generated passively every turn. The more workforce you have that aren't working, the less happiness. But the only way to actually remove the workforce is to either upgrade or build new buildings. But many times, you won't have the materials to both maintain your army and to build new buildings. So both feed into each other, making early stages of a campaign extremely slow going. These problems aren't necessarily bad. I prefer complexity to simplicity every time, but I feel like these numbers have to be just slightly more balanced.
And we got this major combat in the breach. We're just man to man, just pushing in. I don't think I'll get a breach there like ever, but it's what I have to do to try to get in.
The battles, the best part of any Total War game in my opinion. This is really where you get to show off your battle strategy. But the battles in Pharaoh aren't that great in my opinion. They aren't bad, but aren't anything really special. I think this happens for a couple main reasons. One is the clear lack of unit diversity. Now I know we're in the Bronze Age, okay? I'm not unaware of the fact that we are limited to the Bronze Age, okay? But I feel like the game is limited to basically 3 units. You have your infantry guys, you have your archers, and you have your chariots. With not real distinction between these 3 classes. All the main infantry guys feel pretty much the same. Spear units will perform almost the same as axe or club units. There needed to be more unit types and more units within those types as well.
I have Ramses in his chariot, who's just chilling out. But I'm putting a lot of fire on this guy because his bodyguard unit is at the top of the wall.
Chariots are your real superpower in the game, but chariots are not even wholly unique. You can very, very quickly get chariots or get the buildings you need to produce chariots, and they do cost a lot to maintain. But chariots are in no way a replacement for actual cavalry, in my opinion. I would much rather just have normal cavalry units. Chariots are not that quick. They're not very maneuverable, especially in like settlements or siege battles. Not very useful whatsoever. Chariots are also the only non-foot mobile unit. Like I said, no regular horseback troops. No elephants too. We couldn't have horseback troops, just guys on horses or elephants. I feel like we needed one of those two, or at least a couple other things, just to kind of change the battle gameplay up a little bit. Second, a new feature in Pharaoh is the armor each unit has. Hitting home on the Bronze Age theme, of course, each unit has some level of bronze armor.
I'm putting a ton. I think that's just their armor. I'm guessing that's just their armor. That's not like their actual like their numbers, but I don't really know.
As they go into combat, their armor will degrade and they will start taking losses. But this mechanic works extremely slowly over time and makes every battle feel like it takes an eternity. Even when you outflank and outperform your opposing general and surround units, they will still be destroyed very slowly over time. I am not a fan of very fast arcade battles, but there has to be a middle ground here, okay? There has to be a middle ground between fast twitch battles and battles that can take 25 to 35 minutes to finish. After a while, it wasn't even worth playing these battles. It was just so much faster to simulate, even if the losses were greater, because I didn't want to spend 30 minutes in a battle to finish it. Like I said, this also makes strategy feel pointless. What is the point surrounding units when they hardly die any faster? You might as well just send your guys out just one simple attack order and just do a headlong charge into the enemy. Because in the end, it makes almost no difference. Of course, siege battles. I did not one time playing get a siege battle defense on a walled city, a provincial capital. Because every time a provincial capital was besieged, they would never attack, especially with the sea people. They never attacked one time. They would just wait out the attrition until I surrendered. Even if the sea people outnumbered my defense behind a walled city 3-1, 4-1, they would never attack. I'm not sure, this seems like just an AI programming error, but it was like unbelievable that they would never attack even when I'm outnumbered. One thing I didn't like was when you're defending non-walled settlements in prior games, you would have certain blockades and like ramparts and kind of debris you could put in between streets. Now these were really useful on a strategic level because you could block off certain roads and you can use that to funnel down enemies. And for some reason these have been removed. So basically there's no there's no pre-planning for any type of non-settlement defense beyond just placing guys where you want. Now the AI is generally stupid in the battle, so they will funnel their troops regardless, but I kind of like this ability because with those blockades and ramparts, it actually gave you a real fighting chance if you're outnumbered, and now it's just a street brawl, and it feels kind of without any kind of strategic importance.
The fucking combat AI in this game is so bad. Like, it's so hard to be exact. Where are you going? Like, I tell people to go in one direction and they don't. I tell them to attack one person and they attack somebody else, or they just don't they don't attack anybody.
For me, surviving the Bronze Age collapse and defeating the never-ending waves of sea people was the main pull of the game. I loved it. I loved every second of it. But now that I've done that 3 different times with 3 different factions, what's left? It's clear from the population playing the game that many people have already moved on completely, dissatisfied with the clear lack of content and stark similarities to Total War Troy. It's really simple. Do the few added features warrant a full game price of $60? It does not. My final verdict for Total War Pharaoh is a 6.5 out of 10. It's a good game with some new mechanics that I really personally like. But these new mechanics don't make up for the removal of content for future DLC, the lackluster unit variety, and the average battle sequences. If you really want Total War Pharaoh, I recommend waiting for it to come on sale. By that time, hopefully the Mycenaeans will be added to the game behind DLC, of course, and we might even get some Persian factions in the game. But for now, guys, thanks for watching.